Fine, okay, call the meeting to order.
It's a miracle.
Roll call, I don't have a question tonight, but someone did say they missed it, so I'll have one next time. So everyone is here except for Rachel, who's home with either sick or her kids are sick. So additions to the agenda.
Yes, there were a few additions added to the agenda that came in after the board, the initial agenda was sent out. We received a couple of resignations, and then there's also a memorandum of agreement that I'll walk through when we get into the heart of the agenda.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended? So moved. Cheryl, second. Cheryl, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. No public comment that I'm aware of. So we're to the consent agenda. So we'd like to start with Cheryl first. Get the money out of the way.
I wish we could, huh? I got to go in and look at the bills today. I see there was a bill for more fitness equipment for the fitness center and the weightlifting. That's always good. They're upgrading constantly and making sure that everything is safe. Winter camp bill came in. Makes me think, well, maybe we're not done yet. Maybe they'll go again at the rate we're going. We got a new blow forge donated by Fire Build. And actually, they donated for 2 and we only bought 1. But
So I can speak to that a little bit. So there was a fundraising request for equipment to be used within the Innovation Center and the wood shop. And Buyer Built came through and gave enough money to donate for 2, essentially 2 pieces of equipment. And then the Community Foundation, the CTE grant that we have, they also provided money for one of the pieces of equipment. So we ended up being able to get 3 different pieces of equipment for those areas. And the kids have just been having a great experience. The most recent piece of equipment that they have, they're able to use, Mr. Piepenberg would be very disappointed in me right now. One of the lathes to do like larger sets of nesting bowls. And there's just some really cool work that our students are learning how to do with the donated wood. I know we've had a couple of conversations about wood that's been donated to the district. So there's just some really fun projects that our kids are learning how to create.
I just thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
We had a couple of our people go to the day at the Capitol, and also some people went to some seminars for ongoing learning, which is always imperative for a group such as this. There's so much to learn and understand and catch up with.
Yep, and there are MSBA trainings yet this spring. I think it's coming up on Friday for another phase training. So if there's any interest in board members attending that, let me know. I know we've talked a little bit about that. Those phase trainings are offered in a couple of different places. I think on Friday is in St. Cloud, so it's a little bit more accessible versus going all the way to the metro. That's preferred. So, but yes, the MSBA trainings have been attended well.
The other thing that jumped out was we made our final HVAC payment.
Yes.
So it
Elementary.
made me feel good, finally.
Good process.
That was pretty much what jumped out at me. Everything else was pretty much normal.
Okay, we got the minutes from the last meetings are on there. And then career increment payments. You want to cover that and
Sure,
the
I'll just-
overloads and the resignations and the donations?
You bet. So our career increments, every year, I'll pull those up and you can see. So these are based on bargained agreements or master agreements. And you'll see that we have staff that have been here everywhere from 12, 20, 30, 35 years. And so those are the career increments, and those payments are made at the end of the year that they complete that year. We also have some overloads. We have some long-term sub needs in our secondary building. So we have 3 teachers who in lieu of trying to piecemeal a position, having consistencies for the course of the quarter. So those 3 teachers have agreed to overloads. And then in our resignations, I want to take just a minute and kind of talk through a couple of these. So the first one we have Marion Heinen, who has had 50 years of service for our school district. Joan Blonigan, who's had 22 years, and Deb Bankston, who has had 28 years. So collectively, we are losing 100 years of service to our school district with those retirements and resignations. So it's just a huge word of thanks to them. I know Deb has served not only in as a paraprofessional, but served through our food service program as well. So that's pretty cool. And then I will recognize Dave Wilkie has resigned his position, and you're going to see his name a couple of different times on the agenda today. But Dave has contributed 27 years of service to our school district. And so I think it's important to take a minute and acknowledge and say thank you to that as well. So, and then the other two positions that you're going to see are football positions. Ron Fuchs, his boys are done and playing college ball. And so it makes it a little bit more difficult to attend college games and watch your kids play when you're still coaching. So we thank them, and Ben Boring too had supported our football program for a number of years. So our resignations, it's a lot of years of service to our district in those resignations. So and then in the donations, I will call out that we did receive our on the bottom tab here. Let me slide over. We did receive our the ongoing donation from the Dick Dillon Charitable Fund, along with a United Way grant. And also it should be noted that Dick Dillon's fund, the Frank Sion Dick Dillon Charitable Fund, also provides a substantial donation into our Dollars for Scholars, which is scholarships for our graduates. So a thank you and an acknowledgement for those donations as well.
Okay. That is it for the consent agenda. It's recommended by the superintendent to approve. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion. I second it.
Ron, second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, we move on to communication items. Beginning with the superintendent.
So my administrative report today is I just have three things that I would like to highlight. And I hope I don't steal your thunder. So I'll okay. All right. So tomorrow, April 26th, is our mock crash that's supported by our SAD council, or our SAD chapter, the Students Against Destructive Decisions. I think it should be noted and acknowledged the amount of coordination that goes into this activity, and our emergency response systems. We have support from police department, our fire department, the ambulance service, the helicopter rescue, our funeral home comes in and does support, and really just the amount of work that goes in to bring awareness to destructive decisions. I think this traditionally does align around prom, and our prom is on Saturday, so I think it's very timely, and I'm assuming that is purposefully done. Yep. But I do want to just take a minute to acknowledge the level of work that has gone into that coordination. Community members and board members, you're welcome to attend, and you guys will speak to the time. Is it like 1:15?
It's like around 1:30.
Yeah.
Time I heard it.
Okay, so it's in the afternoon tomorrow. So the parking lot, the south parking lot to the south side of the building there will be no parking, and it'll all be set up, and so it's going to be quite an event. It is targeted for our high school students, not our younger students, because I think it is pretty well put together. And it could be, if somebody didn't understand what they were watching, it would be pretty traumatic. So I think it's important to understand that for younger students as well. I also want to acknowledge that the first week of May is Teacher Appreciation Week. So we'll formally recognize the certified staff during our May meeting, our May business meeting. But I do want to just call out that it is the first week of May that has been traditionally Teacher Appreciation Week. So if you come across your teachers that first week and say an extra thanks, that would be awesome. And then lastly, just a recognition of the continued ongoing work that's happening at the legislature. There have just been a number of bills that have financial implications and policy implications. And so board members, I just want you to know that I continue to watch closely to determine and see how things are moving through that may impact and influence the work that you do as board members. So I will continue to keep you updated as things come across my desk. Financial reports. So I will share out the revenues and expenditures. There was not anything, oops, sorry about that. I will start with the expenditures. Again, just as a reminder, why you're seeing the yellow column. So that yellow column has been updated based on the revised budget. And so we are looking at, and when you review this data, it's for the closed out as the month of March because we are midway through April. So you'll take a look at, so again, this is our expenditures, and you will see, if you head over to the first column, if people are watching or paying attention, if you want to know what is all included in each of these subcategories, you can go back over to the first, sorry, I gotta scroll on the bottom here and grab my, you can go back to the first tab in July, and you'll see, just hover over each of those and it'll tell you what each of those categories encompass, okay? So clicking back to the March tab, were there any questions or comments? I know Carrie is here that she could help answer any questions as well. If there aren't any questions, I'll click into the revenue tab as well. Yep, I'm aware. Thank you. So again, the revenue budget, you have the bright yellow column to reflect the revised budget. And then that green column is our current year-to-date versus our previous year-to-date, which is kind of what I've been watching to kind of see how we are in relation to our spending year over year. And our revenues coming in year over year. And again, if you want to look at what each of those categories are, you can, again, click on that July 31st tab, and you'll see what's included in each of those revenue categories, where that funding source comes in, and how it's broken down. So one of the things with revenues that's just to be mindful of is some of our revenues, when they come in one lump sum. And we aren't always able to, until year end, when we get a statement of these are where the revenues are supposed to be. So there is movement throughout the year, and there can be change at by the time we audit the numbers to make sure that they all align. So if you ever wonder why you might see movement and why there's changes, those can be some of the reasons with revenues, because when we receive revenue from the state of Minnesota, it's just, or from the county for taxes, those are just one lump sum pieces of money, and then we have to allocate them on the backside. So, okay. Any questions about the financial reports today? And then before we move on to our students, I don't know, students, why you're not on there. I bet I must have done that. I'm so sorry. I'll make it right. Any committee or organizational reports? Rick, anything that you want to share from the
Policy met yesterday, and there'll be a report for the next board meeting coming up. Other than that, negotiations, let's see, we've had so many. We had the teachers, I think, before, and then we had custodians have met. So those two have met, and we're trying to schedule food service, and Harrah's
are shortly behind. Yep.
So those are all in motion.
Yep. Cheryl from continuing ed.
No, I'm not on computer.
Who's on? Oh, Rachel's on continuing ed. You're on staff development. Not anymore. Thomas is on.
Yep.
Thomas is on.
Yeah, I said, I was fortunate enough that you guys allowed me to join in via via the virtual.
Yeah.
But yeah, attend my first meeting. I don't know that I would say, I mean, for my first meeting, I thought it seemed pretty well put together and standard to what you guys would kind of normally talk about with staff development. I mean, covered just, it's been so long. Covered,
It was May 5th. I think primarily we were looking at May 5th.
Yeah.
Coming up and then predicting forward, but without the calendar approved, we weren't able to do some future planning.
correct. So, yeah, no. Nothing
And the
really to
calendar
report.
committee did meet,
Mhm.
and that will be upcoming, the discussion on that.
Perfect. Okay. Anything else?
Any other committees?
Okay.
We move on to no old business. so-
Well, I'm gonna pause for a second and give our
Oh, we
student
got the student, yeah.
representatives. I don't know why I missed student representatives. So ladies, take it away.
Okay, well, prom is this Saturday, on the 29th, and I'm on the prom committee, so we've been, on Sunday, we set up well, we just got all our decoration kind of wrapped up, figure out what we need to order, getting ready for the grand march, we're sending out all those emails. And then NHS, we kind of been busy, we elected our junior representative a while ago, and that was Josiah Butch. We had, like, if they submit applications and then we kind of had a interview, kind of, it was not like intimidating, but we called it. And then, we are gonna we're starting to do the officer positions for next year. We usually do that at the end of the year, so we're getting those applications sent out. For the first time NHS has done this, we have inducted a sophomore class. And the standard GPA for NHS junior year is 3.4. And so for sophomores, we put it to 3.75 because they haven't had as many of the challenging classes, and it's like, so we had about 22, I think, that actually met that, which we were really surprised with, and they all passed through the board of teachers that reviews it. And so we're gonna keep the induction, like the junior year, the big one that we do but we're just gonna induct them in a meeting kind of so they can say the pledge and stuff, but we'll do the big one their junior year if they keep their GPA up. And then we're planning to do an idea that we came up with is an activities fair, because like a lot of sport. I mean, everyone can use numbers right now, like all like band, So we're gonna reach out to all the organizations, and I don't know if they can find a spokesperson or whatever. We're gonna go. We got cleared to go on the football field for that, so we're gonna have everyone have their own little shop, and then I think we decided on 8th graders are gonna come before going into high school so they can go and see what they're interested in. Someone can explain it. And then we're planning a community summer kids movie kind of outside day at Van's Beach this summer. We haven't determined a date yet, but so we're planning a lot of stuff. So it's been busy there, but you can continue on.
So as you said earlier, the mock crash is tomorrow at 1:30, I believe. And today for that, we went to advisories and we did Jeopardy with them on just facts about distracted driving and incidents. And then whatever advisories, they put all the advisors in one room, whichever one got like a free cinnamon roll ticket that we sell every first Friday of the month, right?
Yep.
Address. And then tomorrow morning at 7:40 to 8:15, there's 3 of us girls that are handing out lifesavers, like little hard candies, to any of the students that drive. And if they could lie or not, but that say they weren't on their phones or any distracted driving, they can get one, and seatbelts and stuff like that. And then June 1st, we just found out about this, kindergartners are going to the Amazing Farmyard and they want volunteers. So us SAD students are helping out for that. And then for student council, I think it's one of the Sundays, what we're doing. Meeting about it on May 3rd. Not sure what date we're doing yet. And then other than that, for student council, we have the election coming up because our seniors are leaving. So and I think that's about it.
Great. Yeah. Any questions for student representatives?
Where is prom being held?
Stonewall Farms. It's in Wilmer.
I believe.
It's a new place. It's apparently really nice. We had to fundraise all those tickets for a long time to be able to afford it, but We don't have to decorate it. It's gonna be, they're gonna just kind of have the whole thing. So,
Dinner there and everything?
yep,
Yeah.
they're gonna have to set up the dance as well, because people have weddings there. Apparently it's good for picnics. I don't really know, but,
And they're busing everyone from here
Yeah.
down?
Yeah.
Good.
so. It's supposed to be a fun
Is
year.
that the place that's south of Wilmer?
I think, I've never actually been there. I don't know. I just saw
I've never
pictures of
heard
it.
of
It's
it.
really pretty.
I think it's a Frisian farm. It's a pretty fancy
It's
place.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's a
really
farm.
fancy, but everyone's really excited.
Okay, good.
Nice.
Okay, now, no old business, right? So
No
we'll
old
move on to new business.
All right.
Class of 2023.
Yeah, so let me pull up our graduating class of 2023. You can look and make sure your name's on there.
Hopefully it is.
So we do have 58 graduates that are slated for graduation. So June 4th is our graduation day. As Mr. Orline talked about, that will be in the pack this year. So we're excited to see how we're able to have some temperature control, maybe not have quite so many gowns that are fully saturated by the time students are picking up their diplomas, but so just a recognition and congratulations to our graduating class of 2023.
Okay, we need a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Sure, seconds. Any discussion? Nobody wants to veto anybody else?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. All opposed? It passes.
Okay, so moving into these next two items, so you'll recall at the last board meeting, there was a proposal to place two individuals on the unrequested leave of absence. And at this board meeting is when the final action would come to make that happen. So the first proposed unrequested leave of absence was for the foreign language position, which was Mr. Wilkie. You did see that he has resigned his position, but the staffing complement is still moving to a half-time staffing complement. Although it becomes a moot point for him individually, the position still is going to be created to be a 0.5 position. So this letter B is the unrequested leave of absence. And Mr. Wilkie did not contest it. He actually acknowledged, and had he not found a full-time position, we would have placed him in the callback order as well. So I would be looking for a resolution to move it forward, and although it is a moot point for him because he did resign his position, it does close out the process.
Okay. So do we have to read the whole resolution?
You can just do the introduce the resolution.
Okay,
And
I'm
then-
introduce the resolution. Have you all read it?
Mhm.
Need a roll call vote?
We need somebody.
I'll
to
make a
introduce
motion
it.
to,
Oh, okay.
for the following resolution as it's written on the agenda.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Now we need the roll call votes.
Bruce,
Aye.
Cheryl,
Aye.
Thomas,
Aye.
Rick,
Aye.
Gerald,
Aye.
Ron.
Aye.
Okay, resolution passes.
And the next one is, this one is a little bit different. So you'll notice that this is an acknowledgement of a ULA status change. So after the last board agenda, and you'll recall, so there's actually been a couple of moving parts here. But we did have, in addition to the ULAs that were proposed at the last board meeting, we received a resignation that came in also with an amended agenda item. So there's two changes that have taken place. Had Mr. Wilkie not resigned his position with the resignation that was received at the last board meeting as well, Mrs. Gaby, so Amy Jo Gaby would not need to be placed on ULA. She would have been able to fill that position. But now as a result of Mr. Wilkie's resignation, she'll be able to fill that Spanish position. So she'll be remaining a full-time position and will not need to be placed on ULA. In order to make this kind of a clean and not confusing as to what happened and why, this is just an acknowledgement. It does not need to be, it is not a formal, it's not placing her on ULA, but it's acknowledging that she is not going to be placed on ULA. Okay, on unrequested leave of absence.
So then I'll make a motion to introduce the following resolution as it's written here on the agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? Everybody understand what we're doing? We'll take the vote. Roll call.
Bruce,
Aye.
Cheryl,
Aye.
Thomas,
Aye.
Rick,
Aye.
Gerald,
Aye.
Ron.
Aye.
Passes.
All right,
So can I ask a question in here?
sure.
So when does what's happening gonna show up next board meeting?
Can you ask again? I'm not-
So this kind of looks like to me, kind of processed what we kind of had originally, unless I missed something.
Nope. So what's different is that Amy Jo is not placed on unrequested leave. So that's an acknowledgement. So in March, what was the board authorized a proposal to place those two individuals on unrequested leave? What this does is Mr. Wilkie's position was still reduced to a half-time position. So that's what we
I got
have to fill.
I missed one of the phrases.
Yeah, no, so it's, yeah,
I just wanted to make sure it was in there while we're talking about.
Yeah. Yep, and- no, thank you for asking. Yep.
Okay, that brings up the school calendar.
All right. So the school calendar, I'm going to share and cast. So there was an extensive amount of communication and conversation around the school calendar. And there was, there was also a survey that was sent to families. And this calendar is really a result of that survey and dialogue and discussion that took place amongst the committee members. So there's some highlights and some things that I really think are going to be important for us to know about this calendar. So the survey that went out was really asked about the professional development structure and what is the preferred method to ensure that we have days for our professional development for our certified staff. And also considering whether or not the school year is completed by before Memorial Day. So in the survey was kind of those two questions. And the first portion of the question for professional development asked, it was a resounding response that we, by 44.7%, we either have 2-hour late starts, 1 per month, or 42.7% that said no 2-hour late starts at all. So keep it the way it was. Okay. So there were 408 responses that came in from this survey from our community members and our parents. One of the biggest concerns that came through with those 2-hour late starts was about childcare for our elementary students. And so that was an extensive amount of communication about what are some options and ideas. I have talked to community ed to see if they can develop something within pause, and they're looking at how to do that as well. We've talked about brainstorming ideas of maybe utilizing some of our high school students on those late start days if pause isn't an option. So that was taken into consideration, and that concern was heard as well as we took a look at this. Probably another one of the biggest driving factors of the calendar was taking a look at the question of is it important to end the school year before Memorial Day? Of the 408 responses, 269 people said yes, which was 66.1%. And 101 people had no preference at all. So in order to end the school year by Memorial Day, it really was difficult to maintain the same type of calendar that we had last year and have full professional development days and have days off around breaks. So what you're going to see that's provided on this calendar is really a calendar that starts right after Labor Day. I'll speak to that in just a second, and it ends before Memorial Day. The purple days are 2-hour late starts. What we tried to look at in taking into consideration preschool, for example, is that not every 2-hour late start is on a Monday. So we have split between Mondays and Tuesdays. We also have, so as an example, in November, you will see that conferences are on the 9th. On the 9th. That is going to count as 2 contract days because that's going to be an early release for students, and then conferences will be in the evening. But then there will also be conferences on the morning of the 10th, followed by a professional development day in the afternoon of the 10th. So there is no other scheduled 2-hour late start in November because that opposite of conferences on the 10th is going to be when that professional development can take place. You'll notice December, school is going to go up through the 22nd, and we have 1 in-service or 1 2-hour late start on a Tuesday. Taking a look at January, there is the 1 in-service day for staff, which is January 15th. And then you'll notice, so there will be no students that day. The 15th, in February, I believe that's February 6th. My eye doctor would be so proud of me right about now. Good thing I've looked at this calendar a number of times. So there's a late start there. March is a similar month to November in the sense that you have evening conferences on Thursday, and Friday is conferences in the morning with an in-service in the afternoon. We did recognize, we had a lot of conversation about the number of Fridays that we have off. Again, in trying to put all these pieces together, we recognized that we could not meet every need. And so we really did try to do the best based on all the information that came in to provide professional development, the least amount of disruption for kids. There's a balance in quarter days. And then you'll see April and May each have 1 2-hour late start. The 24th of May is the last day of school. So there's a couple of pieces of commentary that came in through the survey that I'd like to just speak to. One was an extensive recognition that our e-learning days need to be used for weather-related closures, and we agreed wholeheartedly. E-learning days that's how they would be used next year. So we would have 5 e-learning days. You will notice if there are more than 5 inclement weather days, we do have 2 of them built into the calendar. Those days are on President's Day, which is February 19th, and you'll notice on April 1st, which is Easter Monday. So that was similar to this year as well. I also want to point out that currently this calendar does not have a graduation date. Okay. The reason for that is because by ending school on May 24th, by ending school on May 24th, our traditional graduation day would have been June 2nd. So that would have been, so now students, staff, everybody is off for over a week before graduation takes place. A survey has been sent to all of the families of our 2024 graduates. We've had 131 surveys sent out with 3 different dates. There were people on the committee who talked about having a Friday night graduation. That has been done in the past. They talked about having a Sunday graduation on Sunday, May 26th. And then they also looked at June 2nd to keep it kind of consistent. So we've only received 53 responses so far. So, and the board actually has a formal process to set graduation day. So it's not on the calendar at this moment. There is a recognition on the calendar that a survey has been sent and it would be one of those 3 days. But that is something that's also unique to where we are at this moment because we don't have a graduation day on there. Beyond that, I think I will just pause and ask for any questions.
So all the guidelines have been met as far as hours, days the students are in school and
This calendar does present 170 student contact days for the secondary. And that was something that we brought back so that there was more, there was an extra student contact day.
That was part of the discussion, was making sure there were at least 170 student contact days. The teachers have to have 184, or the senior high? Or
No, all certified staff need to have 184.
And that's meant also. I'm on that committee and there was extensive conversation. Many times it was brought back to start again. And pretty much everyone was in agreement that this was going to work and meet the criteria that the board had set forth. I'm very confident that this is what we were looking for.
The other piece that I will add is this is a change to families. And so the calendar committee did commit, the committee committed to checking in with families to see how the 2-hour late starts work before determining the calendar for next year. Because I think it is important to see what that implication is.
well, communication is key and I gotta give you guys a lot of credit for putting it together. I like it. I guess I'm gonna make a motion to accept it. I don't know if you're ready for that, but
That's motion, a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
Is there further discussion?
I think it's very interesting. For years, I always wondered why we couldn't pull this off. And it just seemed like we were always kind of struggling. It went to after Labor Day weekend. Once the Resort Association got involved and tried to push it back. And then it seemed like we pushed into June a little bit. Looks great to me. Lots of schools are doing it like this.
The other thing, thank you for saying that, because one of the things I wanted to add on the survey, there was a question about starting before Labor Day. Again, that was one of the discussions that I shared that I had with the committee. When the last calendar was presented, when we find out how this is working, I think we'll have conversation with our community members about a pre-Labor Day start. That is a process that you have to apply through the state of Minnesota. We can't just pick one unless we have a construction project, and we don't have any of those at the moment. So, which by the way, I'm fine with. So if we just, we'll have to decide if that's something that we want to do, but then our community also has to be engaged and we have to have a different process. And so there was question about that as well. There was also an interesting number of comments about having a 4-day school week. Again, that's not something that we can do at this moment in time, and it's not an option for us to even apply for. So, but there was good comments that we were able to just discuss. So,
Okay, any other questions? Motion's before us. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Calendar is approved. Number E.
all right. So, I just want to walk through this with you and let you know how this came to be, and why I'm going to ask you to support this. So as I mentioned, Mr. Wilkie has provided 27 years of service to our school district. And part of the master agreement for our certified staff has access to it has severance language. But in order to access severance, the master agreement identifies that the district needs to be notified by March 1st. If you remember, Mr. Wilkie was placed on or proposed for ULA at the end of March. He had no opportunity to even tell us if he was intending to seek a different position. When I was approached to consider entering into a memorandum of agreement to allow him to access that time, I feel as though, Education Minnesota was supportive. I think it's wise for us to acknowledge the fact that he has served for 27 years within our school district. So what this memorandum of agreement does is it allowed him to a different date to give notice to the school board, his intent to accept a full-time position elsewhere. And that is what the board acted on in a consent agenda. And my recommendation is that, we would approve this memorandum of agreement, to allow him to access his severance.
I'll make a motion to approve this.
Second.
Motion made and second. Does everyone understand? You have any questions? Then all in favor, say aye. Opposed? It is passed. Brings us to upcoming meetings.
The only thing I'd like to highlight is that, our May meeting is the middle of the day. Again, it's, that's when, because we intend to have students present and, supporting through presentations. So just as a reminder that May 9th is at 1:30 in the afternoon. Again, here in the boardroom. Otherwise, there's just, meetings that are scheduled as such.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
I can make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye. We are adjourned.